hey, we need your oil. And you guys were like, oh, okay.
You know why that is? It's because we are Americans, and there's very little to separate us from your culture. Pretty much Americanized to the T, and you know, we've got a big identity crisis here because, like, what defines us that are different is, like, things like, oh, we say A, we drink beer. Oh, wait, Americans love beer too, you know? It's like, oh, well, we wear lumberjack shirts. And there's this stupid fucking commercial by Molson Canadian. It's like our national beer company, and it's about this guy named Joe getting up on a podium and defining everything about Canada that makes him Canadian. And if you actually look at it critically, it's just total bullshit. It's things like, oh, our national sport is hockey. Oh yeah, that really separates us from, you know, the States where, you know, it's the same thing. People head in two directions, but this time with the ball, you know. There's really not much to distinguish us from you guys.
You guys have one baseball team in the American Baseball League.
Yeah, I know, but
we've got one basketball team.
We do some things better though, because I remember as a kid, I actually liked Canadian television because it was like more homey. You know, it was like everybody's a little more casual, and yeah, it was a lot of like, you know, they had some good shows on like how to grow a tree and, you know, take care of your tree, you know, water your tree, but you know, there was a lot of good shows. I mean, it wasn't all like it wasn't the same crap you get here. So in a way, I had some appreciation for the culture just because of the TV being a little better. And they had good pinball machines up there, and that was good. Yeah, but they were like old pinball machines. Like our old ones were up there in Canada, and so it was pretty good because you could play like a 1965, you know, vintage pinball machine.
Man, if you said that to any Canadian of my generation that our TV was better, they'd laugh in your face because they're some of the cheesiest government-funded shows in the world coming out of Canada. And you know, do you remember any of the names of them? I guess you're 50.
Well,
so
they were just like, there were some BBC shows, so some of those were, obviously, the BBC was pretty good, so some of those shows were pretty good. But no, I mean, no, it was just a lot of shows, but they were like, you know, I like those nature shows and shit, and they were like real, like some guy out in the forest or some guy doing, you know, it was, they weren't all high production stuff. It was like, just, you know, I liked the more amateur nature of it. I liked that it wasn't all commercial and slick.
Was he a Japanese guy? Was it The Nature of Things with David Suzuki? David's been doing Suzuki.
Yeah, well, I actually saw that when I lived here. They actually showed
seriously.
that show at like 6
Do not go to David Suzuki.
And I used to watch that shit at like 6 in the morning here, so that, you know, with my breakfast before school or something, I remember watching those shows.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. We've got a few Canadian figures that, you know, they're kind of like the spokespeople for us, but you actually feel like you know them personally because they're so genuine on TV and it's real informal. With American television, it's all so Hollywood, it seems, and there's, you know, crazy colors shooting at you left, right, and center, and there's just, you know, a lot of fake pretentiousness. I don't know.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's a personal thing, but yeah, I like that kind of, like I said, I like sort of sloppy. You know, I just don't like something that's trying too hard, and Canadian TV wasn't trying too hard.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood or LA or California in general is probably the last place I want to actually live because, you know, I don't know, the whole...
I actually remember the weather
I moved
guy.
to Montreal.
You have that famous weather guy there. I can't remember his name, but he's like a pretty famous guy. I remember him actually sticking clouds, you know, like on the... and they would fall off the board. You know, he'd stick the cloud on, it would fall off. And it was just like, this is just perfect, you know? This is how the weather should be done.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I like movies these days that are kind of... Or I think Hollywood's getting better at kind of spoofing itself and making movies that almost like they see that stuff coming on, they see the guy in the audience being like, oh yeah, another fucking Hollywood movie. This is absolutely not interesting. So I think they're kind of incorporating some of the sloppiness and actually applying it like as a planned out thing. But you know,
yeah, that
still a long way to go.
Because I like movies that really do suspend reality. So movies I'm a little more demanding because they can't be flawed. You know, they got to be done so I don't sit there and think these are actors. Oh, this is bullshit. It's got to be done so I'm fooled, so I suspend reality, so I get into the movie, and you know, so my standards are even for movies that are complicated or dramatic. You know, I gotta care about these people. I gotta, you know, I can't be thinking, oh, these are just some jackasses doing their cheap version of Shakespeare or something.
Have you seen any good philosophy movies? I've seen a whole bunch in the past year, to name a few, like My Dinner with Andre or Waking Life is a fucking amazing movie, and I think everybody should watch it.
Yeah, well, that Dinner with Andre thing was just such a fucking brain trip, because this guy is so doofy looking, and you're like, oh, I gotta look at this guy for 2 hours. I got this annoying jackass. I gotta watch him eat. You know, and the other guy's doing this stupid Buddhist shit, you know, and it's just like, oh, I mean, that movie really bugged the fucking shit out of me on so many levels, but I remember it. So, I mean, it did work in the sense that, yeah, it's just a conversation, you know, and you got into it. You know, the first time you watch it, you're wondering what they're going to say. So it did intrigue me, but I was disappointed with the end result. It was just like, oh, well, that was a waste of 2 hours in a way.
Yeah, that short, stubby, bald guy has got a really whiny voice, and you know, they cast him in a bunch of late 80s, early 90s sort of kids movies. So for me, like, I'd remember this guy being like kind of one of those D-class actors who they put in like secondary roles, and he was always like playing this one character, and he's really silly and retarded. And then I saw My Dinner with Andre. I'm like, I could hardly take him seriously at first because I remembered him as being this sort of fucking
I had that problem
parody.
with Wally Cox, you know, because Wally Cox was kind of a weird little runty guy, but he did the voice of underdog. And so for me, he was always underdog. You know, he was a cartoon character. You couldn't put him in a real movie because I was always thinking it was underdog. You know, it just never worked. I mean, that typecasting thing does kind of happen.
Yeah, I found out later too with this short guy that he had a PhD in theater, and it was weird because they were actually talking about theater in that movie, and he's actually playing a playwright, and it was kind of like, wow, my impression of people is totally different. And it's kind of like there's a lot of celebrities out there too who are getting into politics or writing books now, and you never really knew what kind of went on behind the scenes, and your ideas of them are changing. But yeah, with My Dinner with Andre, I remember one part they were talking about where the guy went to Poland and he got into some weird ritualistic things, and like I kind of started thinking about doing something similar in my own life, like actually going to some, you know, tribe or something and getting real animalistic for, you know, 2 months or something, and whether or not life should be lived in that way, or whether we should just be reading about it in books and watching it in Jumanji and the Jungle Book or whatever, or whether it is like normal to go out and try these things.
Yeah, Molly's a little too young for this room. But anyway, I think she was going to show her boobs. Goddamn silly girl. But anyway, yeah, well, fuck that, I think. You know, you don't need to be, you know, it's like people do this, I'm going to be a smelly Indian. I'm going to live like the Indians. Yeah, we'll all smell like, you know, shit, and we'll all be kind of grungy and cruddy, and yeah, it'd be fun. And yeah, whatever. I don't get it. I mean, you can imagine.
You're really hating on them brown people tonight, Gary.
Oh, whatever. And what was I going to say though? That was what you read about the philosophy movies in general and that kind of stuff. Richard Burton was a fascinating character to me. So like he's got a couple of movies that have a lot of depth to them in terms of the characters. And so one of them was Equus, which is about a guy who fucks horses, which is really fucking weird because it's actually a good movie. You say, what? It's a movie about a guy who fucks horses. You know, but it's good. And he did some movie where he was like, he had telekinesis powers. He was like knocking airplanes down and shit, and it was really an interesting character though. There's a lot of philosophy in that. Richard Burton was just so fucking interesting. Not Exorcist 2. No, this is a different movie. Somebody's gonna know the name of it, I bet though. But yeah, it's a really obscure movie, but it had some really great actors in it. And
have you ever seen Watermelon Man?
Fucker. And no, Richard Burton. And it was he knocked down a Catholic cathedral at the end, and they tried to kill him. The woman tried to kill him by bashing his brains out. But even in the hospital, his brain's starting to come back, and the cop is like, "Oh, what the fuck, man? You can't even kill this guy." Somebody's got to know the name of that movie. No, it's not Brain Scan. Ah, fuck. Yeah, somebody go look up Richard Burton's movies and find that movie.
Gary.
What?
Have you ever seen Watermelon Man?
No.
That's a good fucking movie.
I'm thinking right now what that fucking Richard Burton movie is, just because Richard Burton has a lot of parts where he's making little speeches.
Did you say lawnmower?
And it was just really great because he was just talking about how human race sucks and all that. Really good stuff in it. Somebody's got to know the name of that fucking movie. Come on, somebody go Google Richard Burton and find out what that movie is.
It's from the 60s or the 70s.
Richard Burton, what the
That's
fuck
probably 70s.
are you talking about?
And it had, what's her name in it? That really good blonde actress. Her name was...
I have a list of his movies right here.
Medusa Touch. There it is. The Medusa Touch. There it is. That's the name. It's a shitty name, but it's a really good movie.
You into Woody Allen movies?
Yeah, I mean, I like Woody
Everything
Allen,
I
but,
ever want to know about sex.
half of his movies are great, and the other half is shit, But, some of them are just brilliant. They're just fucking brilliant. But they're
Oh, man.
a little bit weird. I mean, Woody Allen's just, he's kind of an alien. It's hard to think of yourself like a Woody Allen. I mean, oh yeah, I'm Woody Allen. Oh, so I'm a little Jewy guy. Ooh.
He married his daughter. Raised his
Whatever,
Yeah,
old
fucking
hacks.
right.
Who cares? We're talking
He
about the
adopted a little
movies
girl
he
and
made,
raised
you
her.
dumb ass. You can't
Like
make a
fucking her on a
distinction
daily
between
basis.
movies and his personal
Gross.
life and his Just shut up. God, your contributions are crap.
It's a despicable act.
Oh, it's despicable. Oh, what a horror. That's right. Let's see. They adopted the girl when she was, 14? And he married her when she was
No,
like,
when
what?
she was like 4.
Well, whatever.
She's a little girl,
Well, whatever. Whatever. What does it have to do with his fucking movies? Oh, that's right. Not a motherfucking thing.
I don't really like his movies.
You ever see Chinese Coffee with Al Pacino in it? That is a fucking good movie. It's about a writer who gets so into his book that he's writing that he kind of turns into the character or whatever, and he's wandering around New York City at night, most nights, looking for money, worrying about money, and I just thought it was just
Apropos. Have you ever seen the movie Colors?
Oh, Colors. God, that sucked. Whatever.
Oh my fucking god, Dennis Hopper directed that movie. That movie's a fucking milestone. It's a brilliant fucking film.
Whatever.
Brilliant
Whatever.
film.
I like Dennis Hopper, but Dennis Hopper did a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah, what about those late 60s bike rider movies again? What's that big famous one? I went through a phase last year when I started watching those like crazy.
That was a stupid movie too, man. That was such a waste of time. And you're at the end, you're like,
Yeah, what the fuck is
what
wrong
the
with you?
fuck?
Yeah,
What the
everything's
fuck is
stupid.
this for an ending? What the fuck is this shit?
What, where they get arrested?
They get killed.
Oh. The sequel though, they're in a church and their buddy's dead or whatever, and they're having that party. And they lock the pastor up or whatever, and they're pouring beer down his throat. And I thought it was just such a good thing for nihilism. Like, I was reading so much Nietzsche and people talking about meaninglessness and nothingness, and I was like, oh, holy shit, these guys have got it right. They've got it down, that idea that, fuck, it doesn't even matter, go ahead and do whatever the fuck you want. And then I was going out on my bike and shit and just doing reckless things, drinking beer in the streets, and it didn't really end well, but I just really thought it was great for that.
Yeah, well, Nicholson and Dennis Hopper were both great in that movie. I mean, they're just so interesting.